one of the things I highly value is like my non-verbal time. You know, that those couple of hours, those however fucking long I get of my non-verbal time, that's what I really value. You know? And sometimes, most of the time, basically every single day, if I've gone through something stressful, even if I've just been tired, even if it was a really good day, at the end of my day, I just go into bed and I don't even necessarily want to sleep. I just want to forget my voice exists. I have so many thoughts and so much shit going on up here, I just never want to vocalize it. You know? And maybe that's because I feel like that maybe it isn't necessarily the safest to always voice my opinions, because it was never the safest to voice my opinions when I was living with my mum and when I was living with my auntie, you know. But a lot of the time, I just emotionally shut down. You know, I don't want people to exist. I want them to fuck off. I want them to leave me alone. And to be honest with you, if I'm not at work, if I'm not in the gym, I don't speak. You know, and a lot of people are not going to believe me because I'm like so loud when I am with people, you know. But it's also this flip thing where it's like, I'm really serious, I'm really fucking loud and joking the whole time. And it's like, a lot of people, they see two very different sides to me, you know. And some people, when they see that flip side of me, they're like, who the fuck is that? That isn't the Nisha I know. But the reality is, I just have two very contradicting personalities. Not saying I have a fucking whatever mental disorder, whatever mental illness, I do not have that. You know, what I personally have concluded is that originally I was meant to be this like very fucking intense, huge personality, loud as a motherfucker, won't shut the fuck up, and it's like, you better see me, I'm the Nisha Carey, you know. And I feel like that's what I present to people. Oh, fuck off, why do people like my Instagram? Fuck off, stop messaging me. And I have that part of me where it's just like, it's like that really fucking extroverted, really loud, you know. And it's like almost I can walk into a room and every single person will notice me. It's impossible to avoid me. And then I have this version of myself where it's like, honestly, it would like probably be like borderline a miracle to even make me laugh, to be honest with you. And this is the side of myself that was like developed as a trauma response, you know, because yes, our life experiences do shape our character. Yeah, and I have this like hyper serious part of me, and a lot of the time I have this mental dilemma of some sorts, which one is actually me, you know. And what I get really confused about is why when I'm around certain people do I show the serious side of me, and why when I'm around other people that I'm this fucking, my best friend calls me a jester. He's like, you're my fucking jester, because it's like, he basically said, I don't give a fuck what people think about me, and I just say what I want, and I make a lot of fucking jokes. It's like, hey, listen, you know, like, I'm one of those people, I am who I am, and people, you gotta take me how I am. You know, like, it's the type of thing, I feel like a lot of people, they're like, oh my god, around this person I need to shut the fuck up, and around this person I need to do this, and around this person I need to act different, and all this fucking bullshit. It's like, I don't give a fuck on myself, you know. Honestly, I think I nearly view it as a good thing if the majority of people in the general public don't like me, because most people are fucking wankers. Most people, they're gonna end up doing nothing in their lives. I don't want most people to understand me. You know, I think it's a privilege to have me in your life, and I also do think it's a privilege to know me. You know, and most people, they are not good enough to be close to me. You know, and for the longest time, I suffered from such low self-esteem that I let such low vibrations, toxic, shitty people in my life. You know, and hey, I'm self-aware. I'm up for bananas. I'm not gonna. I don't consider myself toxic anymore, but I do have toxic tendencies. You know, because obviously I have so much going on in the background that no one will ever fucking understand. And to be honest, there's so much going on that I will probably die without ever telling anyone. You know, so obviously, even though I am healing, even though I am in therapy, even though I'm doing so much to improve myself, improve my life, and all those things, obviously, there is some like toxicity that still does come out. You know, like for fuck's sake, my therapist legit described me as a butcher. You know, and to elaborate on that, it's when someone fucks up, predominantly in friendships, oh yeah, and especially romantically. I block them, I don't communicate with them, I'm just like, get the fuck out of my life. You know, and I know it's not the best thing, but I don't necessarily care either. You know? Because even though there are a lot of these people that I really did care about them at one point, you know, there's just some lines you don't cross. You know? There's some fuck ups people can come back from. You know? But when I decide I'm done, I'm fucking done. You know? And it's the type of thing where it's like, I know how I am. And maybe me communicating what they did wrong, and maybe me having that conversation would have made like a lot of people, especially from a couple of years back, probably the past like year or so, it probably would have made them feel a lot better. But to be as brutally honest as possible, I'd view that conversation as a waste of my fucking time. You know? Because at the end of the day, you know, to be honest, I don't like confrontation. I don't like talking about shit. You know, and I'm upfront about that. You know? But it's the type of thing where it's like, a lot of the issues I've had with people is honestly just how they view themselves and how they do how they operate in their lives. You know? And it's the type of thing, I think the people who you surround yourself are association of who you are as a person. You know? So it's the type of thing where it's like, what normally ends up happening, especially with me, is I kind of start noticing tendencies in this person's life. And I might pity them, I might care about them a lot. And that, hey listen, if someone has a bit of a fucked up life, or what I more mean is, if someone is self-destructive towards themselves, they're surrounding themselves by shitty people, and it's like, I'm starting to be like, oh, are they a bit toxic? What's going on here? That isn't necessarily my final straw. That ain't my final straw. But when I notice that, my eyes is kind of raised, the fucking alarm bells are raised. And then their self-destructive tendencies, or whatever fuck they have going on, whatever bullshit they have going on in their lives, when that starts affecting me, and when they fuck up, I'm like, just get out of here, leave me alone, fuck off, be dysfunctional without me, fuck off, you know? And, I mean, sometimes I kind of look back, and I'm like, that probably wasn't the best of me, because at the end of the day, I know a lot of people were heavily reliant on me and stuff like that, and stuff, you know. But then, at the same time, I'm trying to learn the art of being selfish. You know? My whole life I've been forced. I never wanted to be selfless. I was forced to be selfless. You know, I am a very caring person. I am a very loving person. But why do I have to give up on myself and my values for someone to be in my life? I don't want to do that no more. You know? And honestly, I know I'm never going to be alone. You know? Even though I have such high standards with people in my life, even though to be honest, I don't accept no bullshit nowadays. I used to accept a lot of bullshit. I don't accept fucking any bullshit nowadays. I'm like, oh, fuck off. I'm the fucking butcher. Like, you know, and I have this thing, I know I have so many positive qualities surrounding myself, and there's a particular reason why so many people have wanted to be close to me. There's a particular reason why so many people are stalking my fucking social media. There's such a particular reason why my pure existence makes people fucking feel insecure. There's a reason why so many closed-minded Irish people don't fucking like me. And it's because the stereotypical life in Ireland is play harding, go to secondary school, drink every weekend, piss away your future, go to a college degree, live with your parents till you're 30, go down the 9 to 5 and do all this shit. You know, but I'm better than that. You know, and maybe I am a bit arrogant and maybe I am a bit narcissistic, but the one difference between me and most people who are like a bit delusional about themselves and their identities, I have shit to back it up. I'm such a complex person. You know, I feel like 1 minute, and to be honest with you, it kind of scares me sometimes that I have two sides to me. It low-key fucking scares me. You know, because honestly, I don't necessarily understand why some parts of me, why I show my serious side to other people, and why I show my like regular fucking crackhead happy-go-lucky self to other people. And I don't necessarily know which one is more me, you know? And to be honest with you, I like having the two, you know? And a part of me is kind of scared. If I start to heal, will I lose the serious side of me? You know, because what I noticed is, predominantly speaking, when I was really depressed and when I wanted to kill myself, and when I had attempt after attempt, you know, that was the most serious I've ever been in my whole life. You know? And I don't want to lose that serious side to me. And I know, surely it will always be there, you know, but what I did notice, as I start to heal more, I start joking more. My desire for knowledge, my desire and all this shit, it slowly but surely starts like... Me and my fucking metaphors, I need to get my poetry brain outside of this shit. I need to stop, actually speaking poetry metaphors when I speak. You know, honestly, I think if someone saw the insides of my mind, they'd be fucking terrified. You know, because what I vocalize is only a fucking eighth of what actually goes on here. I have around 6 different thoughts at the same time. You know, I definitely do not have ADHD or autism. I am definitely not on the spectrum. I have went through this. I've went through the whole of the Irish education system without any diagnosis, so therefore I'm normal. You know? Sure, look it. Secondary schools and primary schools would never overlook any differences in kids. Never. Honestly, I don't even understand how my own mind works sometimes. To be honest with you. I feel like if I could genuinely look around this room and have around 20 bajillion, that isn't a word, thoughts. You know? And I don't necessarily even know if I want people to understand me. You know, I think it's a privilege for us to slowly but surely start to kind of connect. You know, this is one of those things I find really cute, and it isn't that deep, but there's 2 people in this world that I'm so close to, we can finish each other's sentences, you know, or if they'll have a thought and I'll have the exact same thought, you know, And I sometimes, especially years ago, I wished my brain worked more normally. Because, to be honest with you, how my brain works, it is really self-destructive sometimes. And it's self-destructive in the sense it's like torturous to have my brain sometimes. Sometimes I have so many thoughts going on in my head I can't sleep. Sometimes I purposely fuck myself over emotionally. Sometimes I'm purposely seeking out seek out shitty fucking situations because that's what felt normal to me. And a lot of times I might have fucked up things that were good for me because my brain didn't like that it was good for me. I feel like a lot of the time I accepted being a victim because that's what I always was. And I feel like my brain had tricked myself into thinking I was weak for a long time. I need to kind of hide who I am and I need to be shut. Like, my brain, the first thing it does is shut the fuck up and silence yourself. It is generally like kind of, do you know the way when it's like a survival thing to kind of like go like that with your knees? Also, I'm wearing shorts. Okay, that's go like that with your knees. I kind of like protect your inner organs and curl up into a ball. Don't speak. Don't look. I don't fucking exist. When I feel hurt, that's the first thing I feel like doing. Like I spent so much time already like not even speaking a single word, people not even realizing I'm alive. I don't answer people unless I'm close to them. If through text. Now, if someone rings me, I will answer. I will always answer. If someone rings me, I will basically always answer. And that's also a huge indicator if I'm close with someone or I consider them as close. If I willingly stay on a phone call with them, and especially if I'll call them first. But, this whole kind of texting here and there thing, I don't do that unless I really fucking like someone. That's not even romantically, that's platonically, that's anyone. I don't even fucking message my family. Most of the people in my family, they don't even have me on anything to go contact me. My family does not follow my social medias or anything. I change my number on the regular just because I don't want to risk my mom ever calling me. For the longest time before I became comfortable with having social media, it was borderline impossible to get close to me. I was like the fucking social media ghost. No TikTok, no Instagram, no Snapchat, no fucking nothing. I legit made one of my close friends, she had to message me on WhatsApp. Fucking WhatsApp. I was there 14 years of age messaging my best friend on WhatsApp. Oh, my rock, remember when I used fucking message you on Messenger? I still got those messages, dude. Okay, now, there's a lot of worse apps I could have got. I message people on, to be fair. Lowkey, you gotta put some respect on WhatsApp Messenger. Lowkey. I got a new tattoo. Do you wanna guess what it says? It says obsession. I am such an obsessive person, but no one fucking realizes it unless they're close to me. I treat friendships with the same intensity that most people treat their romantic relationships. I think my friends are some of the most important people to ever step foot on the whole of the earth. I feel like my best friend feels like my anchor. He's like the center of my universe. And to be honest with you, a lot of my beliefs and a lot of my morals are kind of because of him, to be honest. And a lot of the things I think and a lot of the things I believe are as a result of the people in my life and the people who used to be in my life. You know? I think that people don't view friendships as important as they actually are. And I know this is a bit ironic coming from the person who'll cut a motherfucker off like my life depends on it. And the motherfucker who like barely messages people or texts people or anything like that, or barely even like willingly leaves my house to like communicate with the general public. But when I do care about someone, when I actually deeply love and care about someone, it feels like I can't breathe without them. They're like my oxygen. You know? And to be honest with you, I'm scared to love people. Because I know how deep I love people. I know how fucking crazy I am when I care about someone. I would honestly I would cut off every single limb in my body for the people I love. You know, I would kill anyone I have to. I will do the most horrific things possible as long as it means the people I love are taken care of. You know, I know what it's like to be let down. That's all I've ever known. You know, and it's like these very few people who I've let in, I'm sure they have fucked up, but they've always cared enough to make up for it. They've always been there when I needed them, and I know they want to get to know me. And I know they have a level understanding of me. And I know they give a fuck about me. I couldn't see anything else in this world more important than making sure those people are taken care of. You know? And even if I'd have to spend the rest of my life doing everything I can, even if I have to be self-destructive towards myself or others, then I'll do that if it means they'll be okay. You know, because, hey, people are social creatures. Who are we really without people? And for the longest time, I was purposely isolating myself because that's what felt safest. You know? And I still do isolate myself a lot, to be fair. Because I get safety in isolation. You know, obviously I don't like to be lonely, stuff like that, but I'm kind of used to it at the same time. You know, but it's like, I started, when people actually started to view my presence as valuable, it really surprised me. Because my mother especially she just took in my presence for granted. You know, a lot of these abusive, toxic people that were in my life, they were shocked as a motherfucker when I left. They didn't expect it. Maybe it's because I just go silent and I don't speak, and I already had my plans to leave long before I left all these places or whatever, but it's obvious when someone fucks up and they're genuinely sorry. You know? And it's obvious when someone fucks up, they don't actually value my company. They don't actually like me as a person. They just like having me around. because I'm a useful person to have around. You know, that's the difference. You know, it's like kind of like there's the person who I'm eventually actually going to keep in my life, and there's the person that I'm going to cut off, because it's the type of thing where I really value genuineness, you know? And honestly, even if someone's upfront with the fact, I don't fucking like you, Nisha, I respect that because they're upfront about it, you know? But these people who are in my life and they're kind of like half-arsing it, they're taking me for granted and they don't realize my value, I'll be very upfront and honest about it. As soon as they fuck up, I'm just gonna cut them off. Because, hey, listen, if you don't realize my fucking value when I'm actively in your life, you're gonna fucking realize it quick when I disappear. You know? If there's anything the butcher herself is good at doing, it's cutting someone off. And maybe it's a bit unhealthy, and my therapist kind of plays devil advocate with me and is like, is it really that good to bottle up all your emotions and not communicate? Why you've been wronged? And then she starts saying, you were wronged at your mother's and you could never say why. You were wronged at your aunt's and you could never say why. But at the same time, why... I'm talking about my mother and my aunt in this one. Why would I need the validation of pathetic, abusive people who are mentally unwell? You know? Why do I need to have this conversation with them to get my outcome? You know, that, like, I feel like, inherently speaking, I need to respect the person enough to want to have a conversation with them. You know? And a lot of the time, if I don't have a conversation with them, I'm selfish in this instance when I cut someone off. I know I'm going to gain nothing by having a conversation with you because I already know for a fact I don't want you in my life. I don't want to give you closure. I don't got to give you any of this shit. You know, figure out your own shit on your own and leave me alone because I know you'll value me when I'm gone. You know, that's how I think. You know. Either way, I'm going to leave this here. Bye-bye.